Bradley.
Speaker, pleasure to take part in this debate. Grateful to my honourable friend from North Swindon for the mention in his speech and the ideas that he brought forward about engaging sports people in teaching and male role models in teaching, which was my premise for being there, and for the Minister, as was mentioned, for his time, and hopefully we can take that forward. I'm really pleased to be able to speak on this debate about the importance of schools. I'm a self-confessed sports fanatic. It has been until work and children got in my way in my life. Spent largely on a hockey pitch or in a gym as a young person. So I absolutely value the role that it plays in people's development, and particularly in education. I think it's too often undervalued by governments of all stripes in terms of the benefit that it has for our health, our well-being and education. My humble friend earlier on, no longer in this place, mentioned the benefits to academic achievement as well, which are well researched and I think well understood. But sport, and particularly team games, encourage that social development of our young people. More and more important, that teamwork in the workplace as well these days. But all of those who've played sport understand the highs and lows it can bring, the character and growth that comes from that, the resilience, being able to deal with life. It builds discipline, determination. And that's hugely, hugely important. I think any funding that is spent on sport is an investment in our young people, in independent, resilient, competitive young people who will be assets to our economy in the future. It's also a massive health benefit, and I think the health department should spend an awful lot more time and energy and investment on sport as a preventative measure as well. But it starts, as my older friend from Chatham Nelson said earlier on, in our schools. That's the access point for so many young people. I think it's really important to recognise there's an awful lot of work to be done. I wanted to focus some of my remarks today on those facilities that my honourable friend in North Swindon mentioned, behind school gates, locked away so often. And lots of places, lots of communities don't have the basic sports facilities that they need. For example, research from the FA has shown that 150,000 matches get called off every season because football pitches aren't good enough. 1 in 3 grassroots pitches aren't of high enough quality to play on. And I'm pleased government sought to address that through the grassroots football facilities funding. I look forward to seeing that develop. There is significant funding in football. Sadly, that's not true with other sports. I declare my interest as a hockey player. I will give way.
Thank the honourable gentleman, and I agree he's absolutely right in making the important point about the huge benefits on children and young people with regards to boosting their confidence and increasing that ambition. But on the specific point of pitches and facilities that are frankly not good enough, would he agree with me that that actually stops many teams, grassroots teams in particular, football clubs, to progress in the actual sport itself, because their facilities are frankly not good enough, even though the young people themselves and their teams may be excellent?
Absolutely right. The opportunity, not just pitches, but a clubhouse, a facility, a social space, the opportunities that make so much difference, that investment makes so much difference in people wanting to access and come back every week to engage in sport, as well as to attracting volunteers and support for it also. I think he's absolutely right. As I was going to say, as a hockey player, I despair at seeing AstroTurf facilities in particular fall into disrepair. DCMS really needs to do some work on its understanding of what public available pitches are and what they're for. When I asked back pre-COVID now about the availability of hockey pitches in my constituency, they came back with a big list of 5G football pitches, which are not hockey pitches, can't play hockey on them, and that didn't seem to be understood. In fact, I have no available hockey pitch in my constituency at all, much to the great frustration of North Notts Hockey Club, who are currently homeless. There doesn't seem to be that understanding of the sport or the problem. Can we ensure that where we do have requirements, like the Football Foundation funding for multi-sport pitches, that they are genuinely multi-sport and that some of them are perhaps used to support hockey as well? But one way to increase sports facilities across the country would be ensuring that schools are able to open their sports facilities for that public use. Nearly 45% of schools in state-funded schools don't have that public access, which is a huge missed opportunity to access grassroots sport. I know government's seeking to address this, but that seems to have been going on for a long time. And frankly, post-COVID, it's gotten worse. I can point to numerous examples in Mansfield, in Nottinghamshire, of where pressures on school budgets post-COVID have meant that sports facilities have been closed to the community. I mentioned earlier North Notts Hockey Club are homeless currently. That's been the case for 18 months, and that's because the school pitch they used to use is no longer available. And I absolutely understand and agree that schools want to prioritise their limited funding on education. Can't be expected to subsidise a leisure centre. I totally get that, and I think the community gets that. We all have sympathy for that. But the outcome is that football clubs, basketball, hockey, other local classes and clubs are now without a facility, and it's shut, just as 45% of other facilities are every night and every weekends. The nearest hockey pitch is 30 plus minutes away, and for a club the size of North Notts, it's not viable, and they are really struggling. That can't be good enough, Madam Deputy Speaker. I've tried in recent months to find solutions, even offered to fund things, brokered discussions to no avail. The school won't act on it, though I'm still trying. The District Council's Leisure Trust won't run it. It remains shut, to the detriment of communities. The simplest way, surely, if you want to almost double the number of community sports facilities available nationally, isn't to build new ones, but simply to ensure that the ones that already exist are actually open and available for use outside of those hours. My honourable friend, Sports Minister, mentioned a strategy to fund and focus on hard-to-reach areas. This is a hard-to-reach area, and this is something that could be done. I don't want to focus or repeat things that colleagues have said. I'm conscious of time, Madam Deputy Speaker, but just to reiterate that call for support for district council leisure centres, in particular swimming pools. That's a huge challenge. I know the Minister is committed to making some changes on that, and also the importance of that PE premium. Early decision and a long-term decision would be hugely welcome, because it is a hand-to-mouth existence as an annual one-year settlement where schools don't know where they're going to be in September, and we wouldn't want that or accept that in core school funding. We don't want that or accept that in terms of sport either, because sport should be part of that core curriculum. I think it's something that can boost academic outcomes, can boost government's overall aims in education. It shouldn't be an either or. So in conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, I think there's a huge amount to be gained from improving access and equal access for girls, for disabilities. Mansfield's the home of power chair football, fantastic sport, worth going to go and watch. And particularly disadvantaged communities too, where very often there is the least access to high quality provision and facilities that aren't available to communities. Sport is an absolutely massive opportunity to learn and develop, makes for more rounded, resilient, independent young people. It's an investment in our young people, and I think is always undervalued. I hope that government will recognise some of the themes and challenges that have been raised today and will act on them in the coming months.